Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. A busy week, and I assume you're on the mend, Dr. Lopkin?
I am.
Feeling fit, looking fit,
Yes.
all the above?
Feeling good, looking good.
Like the My Pillow guy says, yes.
Right.
Um, anyway, first story is, and this could be big. It's not big now, but could be big. Manchin has been in meetings discussing his political future, which got railroaded by the Green New Deal light bill that he jumped on board with. But there is a possibility. There's three possibilities that they were outlining. One, I'll go to the least important. Running for re-election as a independent. The other one is to quit. But the reason why I bring this up is the other option, which is a real option, that he comes on board with no labels. If he does that, that will send earthquakes through the political environment. I believe, I truly believe that, and could really you know what? Well, Biden, I don't know if he's going to actually be running, but the Democratic chances. Your thoughts?
Manchin running on a no labels ticket will overturn the election. It
There you
will
go.
upset everything because he is a true centrist.
Mm-hmm.
And Democrats have said, I believe the last poll was 69% of Democrats don't want Biden to run. They don't even diehard Democrats don't think he's capable of doing the job. We've seen articles in liberal media over the last several weeks where they're saying Biden has to pull out. Democratic voters will go, independent voters, uh centrist Democrats, they will vote for Manchin over Biden. Will
And
Manchin
independents.
And yes, and will that be enough for him to win? I don't know. I think it depends on his running mate, but it certainly will pull enough votes from Biden to guarantee that the Democrats lose the White House.
If he does this, it'll be bigger than Ross Perot. And Ross Perot was, obviously like in the end crazy. I'm talking about the impact on an election. He could get over 25%.
Yes, he could, especially if No Labels goes through with one of the plans they've talked about, which is to have a ticket of one Democrat and one Republican. That could be enough to pull in 30% of the vote.
No question. And if No Labels does not do this, because this is the time is never going to be better, then it's all just window dressing and they're all full of shit. That is my humble opinion. If you don't
Well,
shit or get off the pot now, there is no maybe not with Manchin. I'm not getting with but if you don't
right.
do this now, you're all smoke and mirrors. You're all just a
Well,
think tank, bunch of bullshit.
I don't know that I would go that far. The fact of the matter is it is very difficult to get on the ballot in 50 states
It's
when you
always
don't.
going to be difficult.
Yes, but if they don't manage to do it now, if they just give up, then I would agree with you. But
I
if
meant giving up. No, I
Yeah,
stand corrected.
okay,
What I meant, if they make a gallant effort and they fail, no shame, great. Still
right.
send shockwaves through the electoral process. No, I stand corrected. You are 100% correct. What I truly meant to say is if they don't try and they say, well, maybe we'll come back in 4 years, then they're all full of shit. If they give it a
Well,
valid effort, that's a completely different.
they're already trying. They've fought lawsuits in Arizona. I believe they're already on the ballot as a party in 16 states. Now, that's not enough to make the impact they need, but they're pushing it. They're working on it.
They need to get someone. They need to nominate someone, put someone in the docket to give it some teeth. That is my opinion. I think Manchin would be the perfect individual, and I think that would send shockwaves, especially through the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
I want
see,
to. Go ahead.
I would love to see a Manchin Haley ticket and send shockwaves through both parties.
Again, doctor. That's why you're the doctor. I leave my ego aside when we do the podcast. Once again, you are correct. That I think actually, I'll go out on a limb. Call me crazy. It won't be the first time. That could actually win. I'm
I
dead
I
serious.
think I think you're right. I think that ticket would have a possibility of winning.
No question. I mean, that would I would love for that. That's got to happen. That would be beautiful. And I would even well, Manchin would never take second fiddle, would he? Yeah, maybe he would.
I don't
I'd rather
know.
have Haley.
I mean,
Haley.
a Haley mansion would be great also.
Yeah, I'd rather have it in reverse. Yeah, I think that's better. Now, just switching because I despise both of them. Um, Jerry Nadler and AOC. First of all, just before I even get into the story, just as a kind of temperature check, do you think her star is setting?
Yes. I mean, every time she opens her mouth now, people yell at her. Her star is done. She'll be able to hold on to her seat probably with little effort because as Nancy Pelosi said, you could run a coffee cup with a D on it in that district and it would win. But yeah, her own district has no love for her. That she's lost all credibility. The squad has fallen apart. They don't have the impact that they thought they would be having at this point.
And by the way, our favorite person, I believe, is the individual that started all this shit, and that's Bernie. Sorry, I think that's 100% correct. Didn't form the squad, but put the environment in place to do that. But what is the real story? The real story is beautiful. They go to the Roosevelt Hotel to why don't you take the lead on this one? Essentially, talking about or having a speech of what the migrants need. Did it get the reception they thought it was, Dr. Lopkin? Thought
Not
they were going to?
not
It was
even
brutal.
close.
Brutal.
The Democratic Congress people went to the Roosevelt Hotel. They toured the hotel. For those who haven't been following this story, the Roosevelt Hotel is now basically the headquarters for processing migrants in New York City. And they came out and they started making speeches about how we need to provide more services to the migrants and how we need to be doing more for the migrants. And the message did not get out because they were being shot down, they were being shouted down by New Yorkers and it was overwhelming. You might have had some Republicans in there, but this was a Democratic group yelling at them, saying they're the ones that need to be supported, not the migrants. And it was absolutely amazing. And it goes back to something that we briefly touched upon last week. The Democrats, with all of the things they're doing with the border and all the crime and all the homeless, they may be losing their grip on New York City.
And if they lose the grip on NYC, they lose the grip on New York. Because if you surgically remove, or should I say, politically remove NYC, Long Island's pretty conservative, and so is upstate New York. That would be the shot heard round the world.
Yes, it
Didn't happen
would.
since Reagan, I believe.
Yeah, it
That
is.
it went Republican. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the last time it went Republican nationally. More locally, they supported Rudy Giuliani, Bloomberg in his first mayoral run, and George Pataki, who was a Republican governor. But yeah, they are losing their grip on New York City, and it's all because of their policies. New York
Well, they're
City is tired of this.
okay, but it's their policies, but it's also a result of them being, AOC is the biggest. She's so full of shit. She has, completely insulated. She's whatever a YouTube or a TikTok person that happens to be a congressman as well. Really has no interest in her constituency. And Jerry Nadler, I mean, I consider him lower than a tick, a hot dog eating fat shit that's done jack shit
Now,
for his constituents.
Nadler's been in office since the late 90s. And nobody nationally had ever heard of him until he started going against Donald Trump. And he again lied about the Steele dossier, lied about all the evidence that they had against Trump. So he is a political animal who has never done anything for New York, and now the tide may finally be turning. And in fact, the Democratic Party is in court because a court decided what the congressional districts would be, because the redistricting that they did was found to be completely biased. But these maps are supposed to be in place for 10 years. The Democrats are suing so that they can change the map for 2024 because they lost seats in New York in 2022 and they fully expect to lose more in 2024.
Well, the way they're going, they have the perfect game plan to f it up. Um, yeah, I would like nothing more than for that to happen, and it needs to happen because the Democratic Party has to wake up. Both parties have to wake up, but they really have to wake up. They are so. We have to do more for migrants. I mean, I can go down another hour about that. There's people. I have a friend that his son is in has mental problems, right? And there's no there's no help for him. Actually, he's been in prison because that's the only bit basically stop. And he was in the hospital. Not my friend was visiting his son in the hospital, and he basically had a illegal there that was just basically had a headache and has free medical care. He was in the
Yep.
emergency room. I mean, this shit is out of control. And for the average blue collar or working class person, it's crossed the Rubicon. It's just complete bullshit. And talk about the Democrats. You know, they were at one time the blue collar party, the party of the people. That is completely flipped on its ass. They are the party of the elites, the big tech, and global corporate interest. That is an absolute fact now. And
They
anyone
are.
believes it's
And
differently needs to wake up. The 1980s, the 1990s are over. Friends and Seinfeld have been canceled. Please wake up.
yeah, it's true. The Democratic Party is the party of the elite, and I can't believe we're actually saying that, because since FDR, they've been the party of the blue collar. But Bernie Sanders, of all people, has been ringing this bell for 8 years already. He's been yelling that the Democrats are the party of the elite. Why he continues to caucus with them, I don't know. But
Because he's a self-aggrandizing
yeah,
piece of shit that just wants power. He's a one-trick pony. Even the New York Times brought that out when they interviewed him, I believe in 2016. All he
yes,
the top win. He other than that, he's bupkis. He's nothing.
yes. And of course, we do have to point out the fact that for years he wanted to go after the millionaires and the billionaires. Now he only wants to go after the billionaires because he's a millionaire. And he got
Yeah,
that way from his congressional uh, career.
well, yeah, when he was in Congress, basically the guy, the lazy piece of shit, never worked into his 40s, and then he got into politics, and whoa, just by accident, now he's worth who knows? I would say at least 5 mil, at least.
Yep.
Well, that's what it is. Like as we said, it's always do as I say, not as I do. Um, And let's look other than someone else who fits that mold, the man of the people, who also has never worked until he became a senator, a phony that has, I think, three houses, not from sweat from his brow, which I would basically applaud, but from inheriting from mommy and daddy. He's been recently in the news. That's Fetterman, that Schumer basically relaxed the requirements and that lazy piece of shit can show up with his smelly hoodie and all that kind of crap. I think it's part of his shtick
Yeah, it's
in the
absolutely.
Senate.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that they're relaxing the dress code in the Senate for senators, but not for staff. Okay. If your staff can get dressed up, so can you. The Democrats, and there are a lot of Democrats who are also up in arms about this change. Schumer apparently didn't consult with too many of his fellow senators on this because it's bipartisan agreement that this is a bad idea. The only reason they did this is because Fetterman is apparently not capable of dressing himself. And if
Yeah,
he can't do that, he should not be serving in the Senate.
yeah, and it brings him to a more serious point because just like with Biden, everyone knew he was disjunct. He was mentally disabled and totally incapable of doing anything in terms of intellectually or cognitively. Same with Fetterman. Shame on Obama, and you know, what do you care? Well, Democrats always care more about their power than they do about America, and that is case in point with Fetterman. That guy in the debate, the first thing he said is "Good night." I mean, hello.
Yeah, but it's in this case it's even worse because Fetterman had his stroke prior to the primary.
True.
The Democrats very easily could have supported someone else in the primary, but they lied about the extent of Fetterman's condition. They were, oh, he's fine, he can serve. And one of the first things he did when he became senator was hospitalize himself and remove himself from the Senate. This is not somebody who was capable of serving. They should have removed him.
But he's a
And
useful idiot. They can just basically physically and metaphysically raise his hand when they want to. And he's supposed to be brass balls and guts. Yeah, he went to the hospital for depression. Okay, if he wants to have examples of depression, go to a hospice care unit. I mean, you're a senator. You haven't done jack shit in your life, and you're depressed. I mean, whoa, dude. I'll give you something to be depressed about. Just go to a homeless shelter, okay?
yeah, and actually, you know who I blame mostly for Fetterman being in the Senate? Oprah. Oprah was the one that gave Dr. Oz the show. She made Dr. Oz a national figure. And then she went, well, I'm going to back the stroke addled mental patient. And let's face it, she still carries a lot of weight. But
Literally, too. Yes.
yeah, well, yes, no pun intended.
There
But
you go.
like so many other people that she has propped up, including Dr. Oz, quite frankly, she has no sense about these people. She has given audiences to so many people that spread bad information. Again, Dr. Oz being one of them, but to put her weight behind somebody for Senate that was not capable of doing the job is unforgivable.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is, okay, Oprah's Oprah. She's a talk show host. Okay,
Yeah.
was she good at? I didn't particularly like the show, but yes, that does not transcend to other things in life, like having political judgment. Okay, and the other person I'm sorry I blame about Fetterman, as Georgia, is Donald J. Trump. They had a
Yes.
candidate before he effed around in Pennsylvania. I think he was a hedge fund guy. Would have kicked Fetterman at least one. I think he would have kicked his ass actually. No baggage, none of the nonsense. Wasn't a carpetbagger. Same thing with Georgia. Who did he have? Herschel Walker, which him and Biden would have a probably good debate because they both can't put two sentences together.
I don't know about that. I think even Walker can out debate Biden. But no, you're right. Trump was putting his buddies up for office, people who he knew were loyal to him rather than who was good for the country. And yes, Trump deserves a lot of the blame also for Fetterman being in the Senate.
No question about it. We talked about Fetterman, AOC, and Nadler. Part of the elitist Democratic crowd. I put Harvard University, a once prestigious, and I do say once prestigious institution, world renowned, obviously. Um, I think elitists are you can almost they're almost synonymous with racist. I'm sorry because they look down and they don't really believe in the people they try to say they serve. Harvard just came out and said that it's racist for them to require people of color to put together a 200 or more essay on why they think they should get into Harvard, or basically giving a synopsis of their life. Isn't it the ultimate racism that a person of
It
color
is.
who can't put together a 200-word essay and they're going to get into Harvard?
It is
Are you kidding me?
absolutely racist to assume an African American cannot write an essay. I know
A 200
many,
word essay,
yeah,
not
I
War and
know
Peace.
right, I know many African Americans who are incredibly literate. And I mean, let's go back in time quite a ways, granted, but when I was when I was studying how to how to write, apparently I can no longer talk, but when I was studying how to write and how to create essays, one of the things that they had us study was Frederick Douglass.
A genius, yes.
Yes, the Lincoln Douglas debate. Frederick Douglass was so literate. He was so amazing. He was an amazing orator. And now you're
Inventor,
saying,
too.
yes, and you're saying African Americans aren't capable of this? Well, that is racist. Now,
And it's a way, and it's,
in
by the way, it's a way of of basically enslaving them, which the Democrats have done since 1965 with the Great New Society. It's a way of saying, like having a kid and saying, "Don't worry, you don't have to go to college, you don't have to go to trade.
right.
We'll take care. Daddy and mommy will take." And you know what happens? The kid turns out to be worthless. There you go.
Now, of course, I can sort of understand where they're getting the idea that this may be true because their latest professor, Lori Lightfoot, is incapable of putting two words together. And if an African American Harvard professor can't do it, how can they possibly expect high school students to do it?
You mean Lori Lightfoot is a professor at
Yeah,
Harvard?
Lori Lightfoot is a professor at Harvard. She is apparently teaching a course on how to ruin a city. It is absolutely amazing.
Oh,
Yes,
what is wrong with Harvard? I mean, and then he had the guy from Reliable Sources. Oh my God, Humpty Dumpty. He's a
yes,
professor there too. Oh my,
Stelzer, yes.
oh
But yeah,
please.
Laura, yes, former mayor of Chicago, who they kicked out after one term because she was an abject failure, is teaching at Harvard now.
And I would say, being really generous, an IQ of about 80. And I'm
If
being nice
that,
because I'm a
yes,
nice
that's
guy. I'm a nice
yes.
guy. That's why I'm doing that. Well, speaking of IQs or lack thereof, our esteemed president gave a UN address, incoherent, embarrassing, and very few of the UN leadership showed up for it. And his big push, his big, like JFK said, we want to go to the moon by the end of the decade. He wants to have a climate proof world. Huh, he wants to climate proof the world. I don't know how that happens, but maybe.
Yes, and he signed an executive order to hire 20,000 people to do this.
Okay. What do you
It's
put it in a Ziploc bag? Create a huge
that,
Ziploc bag around the world, or to make it climate proof? But he'll figure it out, I'm sure, because he was a professor at UPenn.
oh, of course he was. Yes. That's something else. I saw part of his speech. I turned it off because,
You
it
can't
was
take
so
it.
incoherent, but he started off telling this some story about something he had seen.
Oh
And
God.
that was when I turned it off because at this point, no story he tells has any credibility.
No, it's scary, and but that goes into a recent poll that if you look at this, and I think it's plummeting. I mean, daily, hourly. That in July of 2024, almost half the people polled, less than half, but close to half, thought he had the mental ability and acuity to be president of the United States. Now it's looking at around 33%, and falling, by the way.
Yes,
Which
because
goes to the other thing is that the Biden, they call it Biden anxiety, is permeating through the um, Democratic constituency and leadership. I don't think that's anything that should be shocking. So I don't think he's going to make it to the finish line. Your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, the DNC is seems to be hell bent on propping him up. They're going to have to figure out something to do. He can't. I don't see any way at this point, especially if a no labels candidate gets in, that he can win re-election, because again, more than half of America thinks he's mentally unfit. More than half of America now thinks that he is a criminal and
Yes. And
that he is involved in
wait,
Hunter
Doctor
Biden's
Lopkin. That
crimes.
that is a huge thing that has to be elaborated because that's he would never got in because anyone thought he was Tolstoy. Okay, let's just be honest,
Right.
right? He's always been a dummy since he was 40 years old. High on ambition, low on IQ, but he always had the lunch pail Joe Amtrak, all that crap, right? I think that's a huge thing. If it goes further south, then I think he's truly finished. That's all
Yeah,
he had. Is that yeah? I'm dumb, but I have ethics. Yeah, okay.
yeah. Well, America is now pretty much convinced that he doesn't have ethics. The oversight
Which is correct.
committee, yes, the oversight committee is looking into these things. There's now an impeachment inquiry, but they have, and it absolutely amazes me that the same people that were banging the drum about all of the evidence they had against Trump, which they didn't have, was made up, are saying, oh, well, there's no evidence that Joe was involved in all of this. Excuse me, what do you think Hunter was selling for all of this money? And even if Joe is not criminally liable, ethically, if you are in public office, president, Congress, Senate, all of these people have to sign an ethics agreement. And part of this agreement is when Hunter Biden called his father and said, hey, I'm having dinner with these folks. I want you to get on the phone and talk to them. The first time might have been okay. But after that first phone call, it was his job to tell Hunter, don't you ever do that again.
100%. I love this Democratic Congressperson. Sometimes it's hard to watch. He basically was saying yes, it was nothing. He was this these 30 conversations. We're talking about the weather. What is Uncle Joe now a meteorologist? Hey, I want
And
to put someone. Hey, I want to put John on the phone, and he's going to tell you what the weather's like.
but
If you
but
believe that,
now
you're really effing
right,
stupid.
but now it has come out that Hunter Biden's former business partner and business partner at the time that Biden was VP, was also doing Biden's books. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
No, it's perfectly fine, and everyone in the family gets some kind of a handout, and also the alias emails. It happens all the time, no big deal, and that's probably why now 41% of people, that is independents, Democrats, and Republicans, now favor the probe. And the other thing that people don't understand, it's not an impeachment; it's a probe, and that happened the same thing with Nixon. The probe initially had no legs, had very little traction until almost a year into it, the bombshell tapes came to the surface.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say within 6 months, if this thing continues, there'll be more than just one bombshell. Plus, and I like your comment on this. Plus, as his political um, credibility, not credibility, his value increasingly deteriorates, the Democrats might want this to happen. It's an easy out.
It's
That's
an
not so
easy
far from the
it
truth.
it's an easy out, but it also leaves them in a bit of a bind because Kamala Harris has lower approval ratings than Biden does.
That's a problem. That's called in corporate America the poison pill. That's the only thing he didn't do it by choice or by design. That's the only intelligent thing this guy's done since he's been president, or in that process, is appoint Kamala. Because if there was anyone competent, it would be Asa Nuega, baby. And there is some real problems here because the national polls have Trump, Biden tied 39. And you might say, "Well, that's great for Biden." No, no, no. In the swing states, 41-35 Trump. That's what you call a landslide, and things aren't getting better for Biden. And I also think, and I want your comment on this, is I think Biden's decline is real, okay? In other words, his lack, people souring on him. The indictments, I think, is actually the longer it goes on, the more people just say, who the hell cares? Your thoughts?
There is a lot of that. I've actually spoken to a lot of independents and folks that swing more democratic and more liberal, and they're like, yes, we think he did something, but I don't care. It's and
I think
something
wait,
that
hold on. I think it gets back because we have to give our podcast cred. No one else is going to do it. I'm just kidding. When we said, when your house is on fire, do you really give a shit if the fireman that's putting out the fire is an asshole? Personally, I don't. I want to keep my house.
yeah, and right now the US is on fire. It is
Is on fire.
absolutely ridiculous. And something else that I found absolutely hysterical is, when Trump was saying that the absentee ballots rigged the system, and the voting was rigged, all the everybody was saying, oh, there's no such thing as voter fraud, it doesn't happen. Meanwhile, you know Stacey Abrams for years was saying they
It
took
was an
they
illegitimate, yeah.
it was an illegitimate election. Hillary had said it when she lost. Right now, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the Democrats are up in arms because they're claiming that Republican Joe Ganim won because of the absentee ballots and that it was rigged by the absentee ballots. Guess what? Absentee ballots are fallible. If you don't want the fraud to happen, stop sending absentee ballots to everybody. Go back to where you have to request one. And even more than that, it's, they keep saying, oh, there was no voter fraud. There's no voter fraud. It doesn't happen. These absentee ballots, some of them are put in voter boxes, but most of them are sent through the mail. Ask yourself this question: would you take $100 cash, put it in an envelope addressed to yourself, and drop it in the mail? Would you do it?
Yeah,
Most
I think so. Yeah.
most most people would not do that. Why? Because they don't trust that they're going to get the $100 back. Well, if you don't trust it with your money, why would you trust it with your vote?
Oh yeah, no, it's a whole thing really boils
It's
down to every knows it's rife with fraud, but the Democrats need fraud. They need shenanigans to win because they've lost. Let's face it, they've lost middle America. That train's left the station, and they are so out of touch. They need some kind of bullshit to win. There's without any question. You look at the polls, you look at all of what's going on. You even look at how AOC and Nadler are being heckled. It's just it's they're not resonating anymore. And even with Biden, about people are worried about putting money in there or just getting money from paycheck to paycheck. Climate change is like 30th on the list. It's great when you're at a wine tasting in Napa Valley. that's at top of the list. That and what the hors d'oeuvres are going to be. But in real America, excuse my language, no one gives a shit about global. Yeah, do they care? Yeah, but no, they're a lot more concerned about gas prices, all the things that Biden is screwed up. They're concerned about, not global warming.
No, poll after poll has shown they're the voters are concerned about inflation. They're concerned about the economy. They're concerned about the border. They're concerned about crime. Those are what the Democrats need to be talking about, but they can't because it was their policies that caused all these problems.
100% correct. But you know something? Biden does have the answer because no one, him and his got B minus staff, they're just so smart and so witty.
Ugh,
Their new nickname for Trump is Donald Hoover Trump because Trump and Hoover are the only two that had less jobs leaving than coming into office. But and they kind of forgot to mention that COVID maybe. Hello, yeah,
yeah,
really.
they forget that the country was in lockdown because of COVID. So
How
it's
stupid
and
can you be? And that has about as much pizzazz as I can't even think of something to draw an analogy. How about zero?
well, it is amazing how the Democrats are
Bidenomics.
trying. Yeah, well, Bidenomics is ridiculous, but it's amazing how they're trying to rewrite history. It's like, yes, there are more jobs now than there were during the middle of a lockdown. Oh, big surprise. This is
Yeah.
not Biden's accomplishment. But I heard, and I don't know who it was, but it was a Democratic congresswoman talking about how the Republicans are the ones that screwed up the border, and they're the ones that need to fix it. It's like, no, we did not have this problem under Trump. And more importantly, this was a Biden problem, not a Democrat problem, because Obama had the border secure. He deported more illegal immigrants than any other president. And
And
on
plus, wait a
day
second. He said this in an interview. He said it wasn't. It was edited out. Surprise, surprise. That an open border is unsustainable. That's Barack Obama. That's not
yes,
Donald Trump.
and Biden on day 1 by executive order removed the regulations that Obama had put in place to secure the border. So the border is a Biden problem. He's the one that caused it.
Well, he didn't remove anything. His 25-year-old Ivy League socialists that are running the show did that. I don't think he's done anything actually, except maybe
I
shit his diapers.
I don't know about that because again, most of the people running the White House behind the scenes, these are the same people that were there when Obama was there. They're the
Yeah, but I
ones
think
that
he's
put this.
scared. I think
They're
he's scared shitless of the radical left in his party, placated to them, and basically gave them the keys to the car in many areas.
Yeah, he's
Global
definitely
warming as well.
yeah, he's definitely kowtowed to the left to the detriment of the country. But I mean, this is something again, when you're saying that Obama's policies that worked, and let's face it, Obama had a lot of policies that didn't work. But when
Yes.
you're taking the policies that worked that Obama put in and removing them, who you're this is not, I mean, Obama was the furthest left president we'd ever had. Biden just decided to go even further.
Yes, another again, and I believe, and I'm not a big fan of Obama, but he did say never underestimate Biden's ability to f something up,
Yep.
and I think that's him in a nutshell. And again, I think of Greg Kelly's comment on Newsmax: high on ambition, low on IQ, and that's not just him now. That's when he was 35 years old, dumber than rocks, bottom of the class, but some way somehow thinks he's deserving or qualified for higher office. How that happens, I could not tell you.
No, it's absolutely amazing. And people keep saying, well, Biden needs to talk about his accomplishments.
Ah,
The the only thing he's accomplished is to make Obama look good.
and Jimmy Carter,
Jimmy Carter, yes, I am so
he's
glad.
basically the happiest guy in the world.
Yes, I
No,
am so
he was
glad
better than
that
Biden.
Jimmy
There's no question.
Yeah, I am so glad that Jimmy Carter lived long enough to see a worse president than he was.
Exponentially worse, by the way, because I could actually trust Jimmy Carter in a crisis. I have no faith in Lunch Pail Joe. He'd probably be at the beach. Who knows what the heck he would do? Zero faith. I think it's comical but very scary that we're in the hands of a mental midget
Yeah.
who puts
No,
together
when
things like the
when Jimmy Carter said something, you knew it was the truth.
yes.
You can't say that about Joe Biden.
No, and again, his judgment, his one of his spokesperson, Kirby, I believe, said that yes, it's a great day in America with the hostage deal with Iran, giving them 6 billion. I don't know about you. Yeah, it was the weather was nice where I live, but it was not a great day for America.
No, they had the hostage exchange, the prisoner exchange, but and let's make sure we everybody's clear on this. The United States did not give Iran $6 million. What they did was they unfroze the assets that were being blocked because of sanctions. So this was Iran's money, but they're
You're giving them
the
access to it.
they're giving
It's
him
one and the
access
same.
to it, and the Biden administration is claiming that, oh, it's only going to be used for humanitarian
No question
projects.
about it. No
The
doubt.
leaders of Iran aren't going to be able to divert this. Bull. Look, you're
They
talking of
actually came out and said we'll spend it whatever way. They said
yes.
that. It was no. I'm not just drawing my own conclusion. They said they laughed. Everyone's laughing. Let's cut the crap. Everyone in the
No,
world is laughing at this guy. He's Mr. Magoo, and they actually said we'll spend it any way we feel fit.
yes, and they said it
Period.
to the UN. I mean, so
There you go.
they were laughing at us. We are a laughing stock on the global stage. Nobody trusts Biden. It's a
Deservingly so.
yes, it's a horrible situation, and if America is going to get any credibility back, we need to get him out of office. And quite frankly, we need to put somebody in there that's not Donald Trump.
Yes, but to
We
be honest with you, I believe the mindset in America, and it's not showing up in the polls. I don't think it's even Steven, 41-41 or whatever. I believe it's more than that because I think at this point, and I think things are only getting worse, that it's not 39-39. I think people have had it. They hate Donald Trump. I'm not a big fan either. But if this shit continues for another 4 years, it's called game over. How do you like that?
Yeah, no, I have heard from a number of people that basically their vote is going to be anybody but Biden. So
Yeah, there you go.
whoever the Republican candidate is, they are going to vote for them because we cannot handle another 4 years of this insanity.
No,
But
and
we
that's politics are usually like, yeah, I don't like the guy. Even with Obama, I wasn't a big fan, but the world was not. America wasn't going to end. Let's just be honest, right?
right.
This is not so much the case.
No, this is I honestly, without hyperbole, I would say we are in the worst case that this country has been in since the Civil War.
No doubt about it. Yes, absolutely, no question about it. And we even talked about the Iran deal for the holiday. Trump came out with a Rosh Hashanah message on X, or I think True Social. I'm
Truth.
sorry, and he basically was wishing Jewish people in America, probably around the world, but more in America, a happy Rosh Hashanah. But he also had something that I think is more than salient. We've talked about it on Carnivore Bites, and he was basically saying, when are you going to stop voting for America's demise and Israel's demise because you're basically not realizing what's going on. And I believe that's 100% correct.
It is. We've talked about it before. The anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party is
Anti
growing,
Israelism.
is anti-Israeli. I mean, thank God that there have been enough Democrats to stop the squad and the anti-Semites from getting anything passed, but
That won't
it's
last
been
forever, by the
growing.
way.
Right. And it's got to be stopped now. They need to deal with the anti-Semitism in the party, and honestly, the Jewish community needs to stand up and
And
say,
wake up.
we have supported you for decades. If you don't start supporting us, we are out of here.
Well, I think that's long overdue. It's like I kind of loathe liberal Jews in America. It's like, please wake up, smell the coffee. What the hell are you thinking about? Very interesting that we look at the political landscape. That Biden shunned the mayor of New York. Why is that? Do you think?
Yeah, the mayor has been trying to get a meeting with him. The governor of New York has been trying to get a meeting with him. And here he is in New York City, literally staying blocks from the Roosevelt Hotel, and he refused to take a meeting to talk about what can be done about the migrant crisis. And why is very simple. It goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago. The migrant crisis is Biden's fault. He is the one that did this, but he cannot accept that there's a problem.
Yeah, there's no other answer. And also, I think that increasingly we'll see this, that if it comes to anything that, I'm sorry, I'm not being facetious, requires a thought process or a actual cognitive awareness of something, they're going to remove. So if, you know, going meeting with the mayor. The mayor's pissed off. That means that Biden's got to be quick on it. Anywhere that's going to have that's not a teleprompter, and even that's becoming increasingly precarious. Biden is out of there.
Yeah, well, take a look at what the Biden campaign has been doing. Interview after interview with surrogates. They're sending other people out so that he's not on camera. They know he's done.
100%. Thank you very much. And his son's looking at 10 years, and he's basically suing, or his lawyer's suing the IRS whistleblowers.
Yes, Hunter Biden and his lawyers are suing the IRS. They're not just suing the whistleblowers, they're suing the entire IRS for
That'll go well.
releasing yeah, for releasing the information and violating his privacy. So the fact that the IRS released the fact that he's a crook, he's suing them over that. And I mean, this has certainly never been done before, but Hunter doesn't want to show up in court for any of his own
Yeah,
indictments.
by Skype.
You know, yeah, it's
Why do you think that's
this.
the case? There's got to be a reason. I mean, why?
Why? Well, let's face it. Would you, if you were a drug-addled moron, would you want to show up in court? No. He wants to be somewhere where somebody's poking him in the side, going, "You have to say this. You have to say this." He, he doesn't
I thought
want
he
to
was
be.
the smartest person that Biden's ever known.
Well, that's a pretty low bar. Look at
There
Biden.
you
I
go.
mean,
Well, speaking of low bars, though, there was it was William Buckley said if you take 500 people randomly out of the phone book, they do a better job governing than who we have in our elected officials. And I think that's indicative even of the Republican Party because they have a decent resolution for a stopgap measure, but yet they're screwing that up, aren't they?
Yes, they've put together a stopgap budget for 30 days to give them and the Democrats time to negotiate a budget. And there's or so Republicans that are dead set on causing a government shutdown. This is idiotic. The stopgap is not perfect, of course,
Never
but
is, no.
it's an 8% budget cut. It funds the military, it funds border security, and has a border security attachment to the bill that will enhance security at our border. And these idiots, they want everything. And they do not understand that negotiation and compromise are what's needed to run America. They want everything their way, and if they can't have it, they're going to throw a temper tantrum. And
Take
this
their
bull
ball and go home.
Yes, and this bullshit has to stop on both sides of the aisle and they need to start learning that they work for the American people and the American people want things done. Real Americans know they're not going to get everything they want. They just want things better, and both sides are screwing that up.
I would agree, ending on kind of a sour note, but it's been a sour week. Um, if our listeners would like to contribute to our topics and our show, how can they do that, Dr. Lopkin?
You can message us at the Carnivore Radio Facebook page. You can also go to xvadio.com/connect and let us know what you're thinking. And of course, as long as you're there, you can check out every episode of Carnivore Bites as well as the rest of the Xvadio podcast network at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Carnivore Radio website, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
And I thank you, Dr. Lopkin. We'll be back next week, won't we?
We'll see you then.
Take care.